everyone, and welcome to episode 48 of our Mental Health Impact series. My name is Ankita, and I am the program coordinator and the host at Reach Out Together. Reach Out Together is a Canadian mental health not for profit raising awareness to break cultural stigma and to encourage you to go seek out for help, whether that's professional help or other supports. Every single week, we host our discussions on mental health. So today, we have a very special guest, the one and only Aman Chahal from Birmingham, United Kingdom. Welcome, Aman. How are you?
Hi, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm all good, thank you. I'm over the moon to have you here with us. Aman, let's
Oh,
just start by you telling us a little bit more about yourself.
okay. So me. Hey, I'm Aman. I'm 22 years old. I'm from the UK, of course. And I'm currently a postgrad law student. So I studied my law degree and graduated in the summer. Um, and now I'm doing my postgrad, as well as my education. I also run two blogs. One's a food blog, which is all about vegan food, healthy lifestyle, and yeah, like I share recipes and all that good stuff on there. And then I have my legal blog, which is there to raise awareness about issues around the world which maybe aren't getting enough coverage. Yeah.
I love that. And Aman, I love how passionate you are about living like a very conscious lifestyle. Um, but given that you have like a law background, how did food blogging come into the picture?
Well, so uh, obviously my degree is law, so nothing to do with food. Um, when I was at university, um, my dad, he actually had a heart attack, and his heart attack, there was a number of things which um, could you could say caused it. However, one of the main things was diet and fitness and food. And yeah, when he had his heart attack, what we saw him go through, it was really hard. Not just to see him go through that, but also to see the way that me and my family struggled. Like it was very tough. So I think from that, I just decided that I didn't want anyone that I love to see me go through something like that. And in order for me to do that, I needed to change my diet and my fitness and just be the best version of myself physically. And I think that kind of ties in mentally too. So yeah, it wasn't something that I planned on doing. Like I never thought, hey, let's make a food blog. Like it was, I wouldn't sit here and say that was my dream, but it was something that I felt passionate about at the time. So when I was on this journey to being healthier, I would make different recipes and I'd try out different ideas, like look at fitness bloggers, food bloggers. And I just thought to myself, you know what, maybe I could inspire someone with my recipes and my food ideas. So yeah, so that's exactly what I did. I decided that I'm going to start inspiring other people too. So at the time, I made a WordPress blog, and on WordPress, I'd share ideas. I had a few followers on that, and then over time, eventually, I took it to Instagram, and that's basically where it is today.
Incredible, Aman. And I'm so proud of you. Would you be able to please share your Instagram handle just so everyone can follow you?
Yeah, it's at Amantopia, so Amantopia.
Perfect. Thank you. To everyone who's tuned in, please follow Aman on her Instagram, on her blog page. She posts a lot of useful content. I know she's changed my life and she inspires me. and I hope she inspires you. And I really want to take a moment to say thank you for being here. I'm so glad you're here doing this talk. Let's talk mental health. I know the UK is currently in lockdown 3.0, and I'm sure it's really hard. Would you be able to please share what inspired you to speak up?
Okay, so yeah, obviously the UK, we have been through lockdown after lockdown. It feels like it's been a lot, but it's literally, we've only had three, but it feels like a lot. So I think in order for me to talk about my mental health, I need to start at the beginning. So obviously lockdown came into place last year, and before lockdown, so actually our lockdown started last March, but it was about this time last year where I feel like things kind of changed. So before lockdown, I was living in um, my university halls. I was living out. I was socializing. I was seeing my friends like every other week. There was just so much to look forward to. Like life was really good. Um, like sometimes I'll sit on my phone and my snap memories, it will show this time last year and life was good. And it makes me so happy. But um, yeah, there was just so much going on, so many good things to look forward to. And then around this time last year, I actually went to India. And when I came back, I think we had 1 week of normality. And even that, it was kind of like, oh, what is COVID? COVID's coming. There's going to be a national lockdown. We don't know what's going on. And then eventually we went into that lockdown. So for me, someone who was living out at uni, had a lot of freedom, saw a lot of people, socializing all the time. I went from that to then India, again, amazing experience, to then being in a lockdown. Now, when we went into that lockdown, I moved back home because obviously that was the right thing to do at the time. Um, and yeah, it was a really weird time because we went from like going to uni every single week to online classes to not knowing when your exams are going to be, the structure, nothing. It was a very weird experience, not just for me, but obviously for the rest of the students in the UK. And I guess for universities too, because they didn't know what they were doing. Nobody did. Yeah, so I think it was a case of going from a fun life to being locked inside. And I think when we went into that lockdown, I was still finishing my degree, of course. So there was a lot of studying, looking at four walls, stuck indoors, going for a walk every once in a while. Like that was probably the most exciting thing, but it was very different to what I was used to. And I think as well, we went from, again, like I said, that social bubble to no social bubble. And yeah, so it was four walls every single day. And I was basically doing the same thing, which was I'd wake up, I'd go to my desk, I'd study, and then I'd go to sleep. It was like a constant cycle, same thing again and again. And I think I was just very exhausted. I didn't really I didn't really feel connected. Like I was finishing my degree off because of course that's what I knew I needed to do, but I didn't really feel connected to my degree. I just knew I had to finish it. Um, and yeah, so it was that cycle again and again, like I said. Um, and then it got to the end where, of course, I finished my degree and I was so, so happy when I was finished with it. But I had been living that constant cycle again and again that when I finished my degree, I was quite confused, if anything, because I didn't really know what to do. Like, I think that's when I really, really lost my motivation because I lost that routine, that cycle of going again and again. And then it was kind of like, oh, now what? What's next? And I think what also made me feel like that was the fact that it wasn't that I just finished an academic year. It was the fact that I had finished the whole degree, that there was no going back to normal. There was no going back to my uni accommodation next term or going back to that like amazing social life and seeing people. It was, you finished your degree, now what? Um, and yeah, it was just weird because my friends, most of them, they were doing their master's degrees at the time, so they were really busy with that. And some of my friends were international students, so they were halfway across the globe. And yeah, I just felt really lost and I didn't really know who to talk to. Um, but what I was doing at the same time was I was overthinking because that was all there was to do. So I'd have a lot of free time. I'd just sit there and I'd overthink like literally everything, like to my exam papers, to like stuff from years ago, to like little things. And then at the same time, I was overthinking the future. So stuff that hasn't even happened. Like I was thinking, do I really want to do my degree? Like postgrad study, did I want to do it further? Do I even like want to go into a law career? At the time I was really questioning it. And then in terms of my food blog, I remember that food blog that I love so much and I started off, I just thought to myself, maybe I should just delete it because I just didn't have the motivation or felt the passion for it anymore. Which was really bizarre because I love my food blog. It's my passion. I love making recipes. I love making content. But at that time, I felt so demotivated in literally everything, that I was quite lost. So yeah, but I don't know if this was down to um, something called postgraduate depression, which a lot of people talk about. So when you finish your degree, it's that period where you go from being a uni student, kind of like a child still, not really a child, but you don't have that responsibility, but you go from that to all of a sudden being thrown in the deep end where you need to actually have like responsibility. So I think maybe that was an impact. I don't know, but it was hard because I just didn't have any motivation. Um, yeah, and um, in the end, we kind of got out of lockdown, but we hadn't really got out. It was like a semi-restricted lockdown. And during that time, I did get to see a few of my friends, and that was great because I was outside and I got to live that life that I had before lockdown. Like I got to socialize, see people. However, it wasn't the same. And I think maybe one of the reasons it wasn't the same was because all the overthinking and all the impact of the first lockdown, it had accumulated and I hadn't dealt with it. So all the rubbish feelings from that lockdown where I didn't know what I was doing, I was questioning everything, the overthinking, I'd just taken it with me into the summer. And even though I was socializing and like living a semi normal life, it just didn't feel the same. Yeah. Um, and then, of course, we went into our second lockdown after. And I think with the second lockdown, it was completely different because I had started my postgraduate degree. So even though I had questioned the degree, I decided, you know what, I am going to go ahead with it. So I went ahead and started my postgrad degree. But at that time, um, I was going to uni, but I was I was also interning. I was dealing with a new course, so postgrad to undergrad, that jump is massive, and the content was huge. So I was like getting to grips with that. Um, I was doing an internship, and I think I was mentally exhausted, but I never sat down to just think about it. Like, oh, I need to like take 5 minutes out and just think I am exhausted, something's wrong. It was just the same thing. Like I just whatever happened in the first lockdown and the impact, I had just accumulated it and taken it with me. So yeah, and when I look back, I think one of the big factors for me in terms of the way lockdown impacted me was people. I feel like I'm very social. I like having people around me, but obviously due to the lockdown, I didn't have that. And yeah, I think more than anything, that's probably what it was. Um, yeah, um, but when I think about it, there's a psychologist, and his name's Abraham Maslow, and he has this theory of the hierarchy of needs. And he talks about the fact that as humans, we have different needs. It's like a pyramid, and he talks about it in layers. But one of the needs is psychological needs. Yeah, it was psychological needs. And he talks about how we need people around us to function and be the best versions of ourselves. And I think I can really resonate with that, because that's what I was missing in my life. And I think obviously we live in a society where we have the internet and we're 5 minutes away from talking to any of our friends. But even though I was talking to my friends during those periods, I wasn't really like having a conversation about my mental health. It was just talking for the sake of it, I guess, and just carrying a conversation. And I think that's where I should have taken time to think that no, something's wrong, but I didn't. And then after that, I I think one day, when I hit that moment of realization that something was wrong, um, I I really took time to like stop and think. So one of the days, I think I was really, really exhausted, and I was just talking to my mom, and I had a really raw conversation with her about how exhausted I was, about overthinking, about how I felt, about how drained I felt. Um, and I can't tell you how good I felt to have that conversation with her and just come out and talk about all my emotions. Um, and I think after that, I remember going upstairs, and for the people listening, Ankita's actually one of my really good friends. We met through a mutual friend at uni. So I remember at that time I voice noted you, and I literally just poured my heart out, and I was like, look, this is how I feel. And at that time, your response was actually like you really resonated with me, but at the same time, you told me stuff that you had been going through, and this was stuff that me and you, we probably spoke every other week in lockdown. Like you were on the other side of the world, but we spoke every other week, but we never spoke about any of this, like our emotions. We never brought them up. It was just normal conversations. And yeah, I think when you told me your stuff and I told you mine, I kind of felt a bit of a sadness, and I'm sure you probably felt the same, that we had been speaking from all that time, but we never once decided to have a conversation about our mental health and how we actually were doing. Um, but after having that conversation with you, I felt so good. Um, but it also made me realize that I need to talk to my friends about mental health, because this is like something really important. Um, and yeah, I think it just made me realize that it doesn't matter if you talk to someone every single day or every other week, there's people are still going through stuff, and you need to be able to sit there and ask your friends, how are you doing? Not just as a general conversation starter, but like, how are you actually doing? Um, yeah, but I think throughout lockdown, it made me realize more than anything that everyone is dealing with mental health. Everyone's dealt with it at some point of their lives, and it's completely normal to. But what we need to do is talk about it and raise more awareness so that it's normal to talk about it, and it's not kind of seen as a subject that we kind of leave in the closet. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much,
Sorry, I
Aman, for
spoke so
sharing.
much.
No, it's absolutely okay. It came right from your heart, so I genuinely appreciate it. And honestly, a lot of things that you said really resonated with me. Being a student myself, I've had my shifts in my mental health. Um, and I know it's been a struggle, having so much uncertainty, but now is the time where it's so important to practice self-love, right?
Mhm.
For me personally, self love would be listening to a podcast by Jay Shetty, because that's something that really pushes me.
Mhm.
Aman, what do you do for self love, for self care?
Mm, I think for self-love, I think when I think of self-love, the first thing I do is put my phone away because I feel like in order to have that time for myself, I need to disconnect from the world. And I think obviously a mobile phone is such a need in this day and age, but it's also really important to take time away from it. So I think firstly, I need to put my phone away. I read books. Like really inspiring and motivating books. Jay Shetty's book was obviously amazing. And then just like uplifting books with quotes and stuff that makes me feel good. I I do a lot of journaling, so this is also how I kind of overcame overthinking. I mean, I wouldn't say I've like officially overcome it because I still do overthink. It's normal. But I just grab my journal and write down whatever it was, any little thing when I thought I was overthinking. So sometimes I'd be doing my uni work and something would like come into my head and I'd be like, why am I thinking of this? And I'd be like, okay, journal, write it down. That really helped me to overcome that. But like I said, it's not 100% there, but I'm getting there. Yeah, taking time out to just meditate, I guess. Meditation is really important, I think. The Calm app, I can't recommend that app enough. Like, honestly, it is amazing. I always try and do a sleep meditation before I go to sleep, just because it really helps me um, kind of like deconnect from the world. But also, I've never finished one of the meditations. Like, I will fall asleep listening to it. So I think that's amazing. Um, yeah, I think that's the main things. But also for self-love, I make sure that I have a routine. And by that I mean I make sure that I have a routine for my day-to-day work life, because that's something that makes me feel good. I like structure, so I'll make sure that I wake up early. I don't go on my phone for the first hour before I wake up. When I wake up, so it's like no phone. Um, I'll grab my green tea and I'll journal. I'll meditate. I'll do whatever, and then I will finish the day by having that 1 hour off my phone too. So yeah, these are all little things that I do for self-love.
That's incredible. And I do that as well. Just an hour before I go to bed, I keep my phone away. I think
It
it's
makes
very
a
important.
difference.
Even when I wake up in the morning, it's like I'm not constantly thinking about, okay, I have to reply to this person. This person has emailed me. I have to do this. I have to do that. It's just
Mhm.
me and my thoughts. And even writing a gratitude journal really helps me. Just writing 3 things that I'm grateful for.
Yes, I do
It's
that
just,
too.
yeah, it makes me just feel grateful to be alive, right?
Mhm, mhm,
I mean, for those people who know that social media can be very toxic if
mhm,
used irresponsibly. Um, if used irresponsibly, social media can be your worst enemy, right? What
mhm.
advice or tips would you give them just so they can sort of detox from social media?
I think if you're looking to detox from social media, the first thing you need to do is there's the screen time on iPhones. I think there's some on Androids too, but you need to set a screen time so that you are only allowed to go on social media for certain hours. Really stick to it and really get used to it. So for example, mine, um I think it's 7 o'clock till 10 o'clock that I can go and use my social media. And then after that, it goes into the off hours or whatever it is. So limit your hours, and then maybe have a detox day where you just delete the apps and you spend no time off on your phone. And I 100% guarantee you will feel so much better. I went to Amsterdam 2 years ago, was it? 2 years ago. And before I went, I deleted all my social media. And this was a way of me kind of like, I wouldn't say like detoxing. It wasn't really a detox, but it was kind of a detox. Like, I just decided that, you know what, I want to disconnect, and I felt better for it. So yeah, 100%. Just try your hardest to just connect with yourself rather than your phone.
I love that, Aman. And we've got a lot of people in the comments saying, we've got one comment saying, there's so much to relate to in all of this, from living with uncertainty to finding a routine to cope. Thanks for sharing. Real talk right there. Great stuff. Thank you so much for sharing. And I found it very useful to get off Instagram. I think I went off Instagram for, I think, 3 months. And I just felt it made me feel, it helped me stay in reality. I feel like when we're so consumed by social media, it's like we're not really living a real life. You know, we need to understand that social media is not real life, and it can really affect your mental health.
100%.
We've got another question from the audience. What helped you find the motivation to do something different?
I think what really helped me was talking to people. So when I told my mom and I told you, I think that's when I realized that, look, it's out, like I've spoken to someone about it, I need to do something about it. And I think it was the motivation from talking to people. Yeah. I think that really helped me. And that's what made the biggest difference. Yeah. So I think if anyone's looking for that motivation, I think you need to really speak to people around you, really inspire yourself. But then at the same time, make sure you have good people around you. This is something that I also learned during this period, that it's very important to set boundaries with people. We have a lot of different people in our lives, your friends, your family, and some people benefit you more than others in terms of having them around. And I think I went through this time where I realized that certain people just were bringing me down rather than pulling me up. So I guess my best advice, if you have people like that in your life, is to set those boundaries and put yourself first.
Love that. I love that. How do you set your boundaries, Aman?
So in terms of friends, friends that weren't benefiting me, I just don't speak to anymore. Like, I just felt that it was best not to have them around. And I felt better for it, 100%. Once you get rid of toxic people or people that are bringing you down, you feel 100% better. Like, I promise you, try it. If you've got bad people in your life, you don't need to talk to them. Obviously, in terms of toxic family, it's a completely different situation because you don't pick your family. That's just how it works. But you can limit how much time you see them or spend with them or even talk to them. Just because they're your family doesn't mean that you have to deal with their toxic behavior or, yeah. So I think really just limit.
That's so rightly put. To everyone who's tuned in, I really want to encourage you to cut those negative people off. It's okay to unfollow, block. There's nothing wrong in that.
Delete the
Do it.
numbers.
Do it for your mental health. Do it for yourself. It's okay. It's not selfish to put yourself first. Aman, is there one message that you'd like to share with someone who's tuned in? Perhaps someone who's not feeling very good, someone who's in a very dark place, struggling during this lockdown. What's that one message that you'd like to tell them?
Um, I think firstly, if you're going through a dark place, I'd say make sure you reach out to people. You're not alone. Um, I think life is very, very, very fast paced. That's the reality, and that's never ever going to change. There's always going to be so much to do. There's always going to be so many people, um, and you're going to get exhausted. That's just the reality. But how you respond to it is up to you. You can let the world kind of, in a way, eat you up. Or you can stop and say, no, that's not going to happen. I'm going to put myself first. And that's exactly what I want you to do. I want you to take time out and make sure you focus on yourself. You give yourself that self-love because you deserve it. I want you to make sure that you have time for yourself and you really look after yourself because no one else is going to do it. It's like that quote, you can't fill another cup. No, you can't fill a cup if you're empty.
You can't
So
fill from you can't sorry, you can't fill a cup if you're empty from
yes,
within, or you can't
yes,
fill from an empty cup, something like that.
something like that. So
Yeah,
work on filling your own cup up before you work on anyone else's. Yeah.
that's so rightly put. How often do you see when someone needs help, you see people, you see yourself running to give them that love, that care? And how often do you really look after your needs, your emotions, what's important to you? I think it's very important to put yourself first because honestly, you come into this world alone and you die alone, and that's reality.
Exactly.
Exactly,
Um,
yeah.
but it's also really easy to just exist and not really live life. And I think that's something that lockdowns also taught me, that time goes on and it always will. Like life is fast paced, like I said, but you really need to just live your life and make sure you lived it and you've enjoyed it because life is short. Yeah.
That's beautiful, Aman. That's Thank you. Honestly, I really want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for every single thing that you've mentioned. I know for a fact that someone that's tuned in or someone who would rewatch this interview, they're really going to resonate with you. Aman, before we wrap up this discussion, do you know what our logo stands for?
No, I don't.
That's okay. So it's basically two fists
Hmm.
just put together like that.
Okay.
So this hand symbol in American Sign Language, it stands for together.
Okay.
And we use the color orange because the color orange in color healing therapy, it brings up feelings of warmth and happiness.
Oh, okay.
And we also have a circle around it, and that circle represents the world.
Okay.
So
That's amazing.
our vision at Reach Out Together is to heal the world, community by community, conversation by conversation, just like we did today through our real talk. I really want to thank you from the bottom of my heart once again, Aman, for keeping it so real, um, and for also contributing to this much needed conversation.
Well, thank you for having me.
To everyone else who's still tuned in, if you have an experience that you would like to share, please reach out to us via email at event@reachouttogether. We want to hear from you. We want to know your story. I'm going to end this discussion by saying you're not alone, and we're going to be back next week with another lived experience because in reality, we're really not alone. This wraps up. Aman, is there anything that you'd like to say? Any last words?
For anyone that's still watching, I hope you're having a really amazing day.
Thank you so much, Aman. Take care.
You too. Bye bye.